Hello everyone, my name is Reese and welcome to my channel. Today we're diving into the class names of the psychology major in the Sims 2 University, and trust me, some of them might just explain your Sims' chaotic behavior. So get ready to decode the Sim brain one course at a time. Psychology, the study of the mind. Everyone is aware of the complexity of a Sim's brain, but few understands its working. So a Sim is indeed a wild mix of aspirations, personalities and base instincts, and perhaps only one who studies psychology could understand this method behind this madness. So the first year is a freshman year, and the first course here is called Introduction to Psychology. We are too a science. So the class name is a funny reference to the long-standing debate over whether psychology is a real science or not. So this debate stems from psychology's blend of scientific methods, theoretical discussions, and sometimes subjective interpretations, which can make it seem less empirical than fields like physics or chemistry. And the name playfully suggests that psychology often has to defend its legitimacy as a science, possibly referencing how some people view it as more of a social science rather than a hard science. It could also nod to the tension between psychology's experimental, data-driven side, like neuroscience and cognitive psychology, and its more qualitative and theoretical side, like psychoanalysis or humanistic psychology. So I think this is a light-hearted jab at how psychology, despite studying complex behaviors, sometimes gets overshadowed by more traditionally recognized sciences in academia. So the second semester class is called Animal Behavior of Mazes and Cheeses. The name is likely a reference to classic psychological experiments involving rats navigating mazes for reward, typically for food like cheese. The wording could be a playful nod to the title of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, reinforcing the idea of studying small creatures' behaviors in controlled environments. It also highlights the connection between psychology and animal research, which has helped scientists understand reinforcement, motivation, and cognitive mapping. Concepts that apply not only to animals but also to human psychology. It might also poke fun at the way psychology majors study behavior by observing animals in simple, repetitive tasks, mirroring how Sims themselves can sometimes seem like lab subjects responding predictably or unpredictably to various actions and things. But when your Sim has fought himself or herself through the first year, they reach the sophomore year, and the first class here is called Abnormal Psychology, a guide to misdiagnosing your friends. So the name is a humorous take on the tendency of psychology students, or in general psychology enthusiasts, to try to diagnose people in their life after learning about mental disorders. It is a common joke in psychology circles that when students first learn about conditions in abnormal psychology, such as anxiety disorders or personality disorders, they sometimes start seeing symptoms everywhere, maybe also in people who are just displaying normal human behavior. The phrase, misdiagnosing your friends, pokes fun at this over-enthusiasm, suggesting that psychology students might jump to conclusions about their friends' behaviors after just a few lectures. Also, it could be a reference to the broader issue of how mental health conditions can sometimes be misinterpreted or misdiagnosed, even by professionals, highlighting the complexity of psychological evaluation. In the game, of course, the title likely plays into the idea that Sims exhibit exaggerated behaviors, aspiration failures, sudden emotional outbursts, or chaotic life choices, which might tempt a psychology student to diagnose them with something, even if they're just being Sims. The second semester has a class called The Prefrontal Lobe and Other Optional Brain Parts. So the name is a funny reference to the critical role of the prefrontal cortex in human cognition and decision making, while jokingly suggesting that some people, or some Sims, seem to function as if this part of the brain is optional or not in use. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for executive functions like reasoning, impulse control, and planning. And the joke there is here is that people make questionable decisions, such as setting the kitchen on fire while cooking, or randomly slapping their neighbors. It might seem like their prefrontal lobe isn't fully engaged. The addition of other optional brain parts extends the joke to suggest that other important brain parts, like those governing memory, attention, or common sense, might also be optional for certain individuals, perhaps referencing moments of forgetfulness, reckless behavior, or general Sims-style chaos. So I think that this could be a playful nod to how Sims sometimes act in bizarre or illogical ways, making it seem like their brains aren't always operating at full capacity. In junior year, the first class is called Cognitive Dissonance, recognizing how broken your brain is. So the name is a funny take on the psychological concept of cognitive dissonance, which occurs when a person holds conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors, leading to mental discomfort. So cognitive dissonance explains why people sometimes rationalize bad decisions or ignore inconvenient truths, or struggle with self-contradiction. The phrase exaggerates this idea, jokingly suggesting that everyone's brain is inherently flawed because we all experience cognitive dissonance, often even without realizing it. This could be a reference to everyday situations where people justify actions that don't align with their beliefs, such as a sim wanting to eat healthy, but immediately calling a pizza when the fridge is empty. Only Sims do that, right? And it could also be a Sims player's promise to stop playing The Sims at midnight, but still playing at 3 a.m. And I think that in The Sims 2, this could be a funny nod to how Sims frequently act against their own best interest, like a knowledge sim refusing to study, or a romance sim getting jealous while wanting multiple partners themselves. So basically, Sims are walking examples of cognitive dissonance in action. The second semester class is called Emotions. Don't fear the amygdala. So the name is a reference to the amygdala, a key brain structure involved in processing emotions, particularly fear and aggression. So the name humorously plays on the idea that the amygdala is often associated with fear responses, while ironically telling you not to fear it. This might seem a bit far-fetched, but it could also be a playful nod to the song Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster's Cult, replacing Reaper with amygdala to make it psychology-themed, since the amygdala plays a crucial role in emotional reactions. The joke could even be that it constitutes fear. In The Sims, this could connect to how Sims experience exaggerated emotional reactions, from sudden tantrums to fear of minor events. And their over-the-top responses could make it seem like their amygdala is working overtime. But now we have it. Your sim is almost a major in psychology because we have reached senior year. And here the first class is called Negative Interactions. What happened to defiance? So the name is a reference to the psychological and sociological concept of defiance, which refers to behaviors that violate social norms. In psychology, defiance is often discussed in the context of abnormal psychology, social psychology, and criminology, examining people engaged in behaviors that society deems unacceptable. The phrase, "what happened to defiance," could suggest that deviant behavior has changed over time, becoming less noticeable, or that it's been redefined. It might also play on the idea that in some contexts, such as in The Sim, negative social interactions like fighting or cheating or pranking are treated as normal, making defiance feel very less shocking. So it could be a reference to how the game categorizes social interactions as positive or negative, but it doesn't explicitly label anything as deviant, even when the Sims act in ways that would be considered highly unusual in real life. And last but not least, this is my personal take on it that might seem a bit far-fetched, but in the time of the 90s and the 2000s, there was a heightened focus on individualism and, to deconstruct society. And we had, after the 60s and the 70s, a big aversion to authorities. And maybe this is a reaction to this. Maybe we have reached a time where we can actually ask ourselves, retrospectively, what happened to defiance? So the second and last class is called Advanced Autonomy, Finding the Best Action. With the psychological take on this, it could relate to how both humans and Sims, of course, make decisions, weighing different choices based on motivations, desires, and external factors. So autonomy in this sense refers to self-directed behavior and how individuals determine their own actions rather than simply reacting to stimuli. And in regards to in-game dynamics, it could also refer to the intelligence systems that evaluate possible choices to determine the most optimal behavior based on programmed rules. So I think this is a tongue-in-cheek reference to sim autonomy, where Sims try to choose their own actions, but often in hilariously bad ways. Everyone who has played The Sims knows that Simmers don't always find the best action. Like, sometimes they starve to death just because they refuse to stop dancing. And sometimes they go to use a bathroom even after wetting themselves. So the title could be poking fun at the way the game's autonomy system tries to make logical choices, but sometimes leads to chaotic or irrational behavior. But now that your sim has a major in psychology, let's take a look at the skills needed to get there. Because your sim will both need skills in charisma, logic, creativity, and cleaning. And if we first take a look at the charisma skill, your sim needs 4 of those points. And I think that this skill is a reference to the importance of communication, persuasion, and social influence in the field of psychology, because psychologists, therapists, and researchers often need strong interpersonal skills to build trust with clients in therapy or in counseling, and to present their findings effectively in academic or professional settings, and also to persuade and influence people in areas like social psychology or marketing or organizational behavior. It could also be a nod to famous historical figures in psychology like Freud, who is known for his ability to captivate audiences with his theories. And additionally, psychology majors often study how charisma and social influence works, which make it fitting that they would need to develop this skill themselves. And in regards to the game, I think it could also be a playful way of suggesting that these majors need to convince, using charisma, others that their field is important, like to continue the joke of we are too a science. But if we go to the logic skill, your sim will need 5 of those points. And I think the need for logic skill is a reference to the scientific and analytical aspects of psychology. Because while psychology is often associated with understanding emotions and behaviors, it also involves rigorously observation, experimentation, and reasoning to draw conclusions about humans, or like in this case, sim behavior. So psychology relies heavily on logic to design experiments, to analyze data, and to test hypotheses. And again, in regards to the game, I think this could also be a funny reference to how psychology majors would need to use logic to understand the often illogical behaviors of the Sims. But if we take a look at the creativity skill, your Sim will need 4 of those points. And I think that this could be a reference to the importance of creative thinking in the field of psychology, especially in areas like therapy and research and problem solving. Because you might need to use creative methods to help clients express themselves and to work through their issues. And again, in regard to the game, I think that the creativity skill could also suggest that understanding the wild and unpredictable behavior of the Simmers requires more than just logic. It also requires creative thinking to decode their actions, particularly when they engage in bizarre or irrational behaviors. And the last skill that your sim will need is the cleaning skill, and your sim needs 4 of these points. And I think that this could be a humorous reference to the importance of maintaining a tidy and organized environment in psychological settings, both for the sake of mental well-being and the practical aspects of conducting therapy or research. So I think the most important nod to this skill is a symbolism of cleansing, because in some therapeutic contexts, there may be a symbolic idea of cleansing or purging. And I also think here in regards to the game that it might be a nod to the often chaotic nature of the Sims environments, because at least my Simmers environments are often a messy house or a messy workplace, leading to mood issues for my Simmers. So now your Sim has a major in psychology. So if you think that I missed anything, or if you have any further ideas, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you think of this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for other videos, and thank you. Bye!